Trump also called Zelensky a modestly successful comedian. The administration has pledged new funding to help California and North Carolina recover from natural disasters. Trump's press secretary noted that while the president and his team are committed to supporting these states, critics point out that Democrats have long been silent on past disaster relief failures, even as they oppose cutting federal waste. Also, Trump's press secretary addressed questions about the president's shift on foreign policy. Although the president has reversed his previous stance against nation building, he is not committed to deploying U.S. ground troops in Gaza or to funding immediate rebuilding efforts. Instead, he is focused on achieving lasting peace in the Middle East by engaging with regional partners. The press secretary mentioned discussions with leaders from Jordan, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia, with expectations that Egypt and Jordan will temporarily host Palestinian refugees to aid in reconstruction. On the domestic front, Trump's press secretary fired back at Democratic lawmakers after comments warning of street violence, insisting that if similar rhetoric came from Republicans, the reaction would be even stronger. Regarding immigration, out of more than 8,000 arrests, only 461 individuals, less than 6%, have been released with monitoring devices. This limited release, attributed to factors like detention capacity and medical issues, has prompted calls for increased funding for Border Patrol and ICE. A controversial executive order announced today is set to impact the 2028 Summer Olympics. Trump's press secretary explained that the administration is urging the Olympic Committee to bar men from competing in women's sports, reaffirming the policy that there are only two biological sexes. Additionally, funding from USAID to media outlets, such as Politico, will be halted as the administration reviews federal spending. Finally, addressing potential conflicts of interest, Trump's press secretary stated that if Elon Musk encounters any such conflicts with his federal contracts, he will recuse himself. On yesterday's, Trump's post called Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator after earlier in the day, the Ukrainian president accused him of living in a Russian disinformation bubble as a spat between the two spiraled. Trump also called Zelensky a modestly successful comedian who talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the US and Trump, will never be able to settle. A dictator without elections, Zelensky better move fast or he is not going to have a country left, Trump wrote. Trump criticizes Zelensky for talking to the United States and spending $350 billion on a war that couldn't be won and that the US will never be able to settle. He also mentions that the United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, with Europe's money guaranteed while the US gets nothing back. Trump questions why Joe Biden didn't demand equalization and states that the war is more important to Europe than the US. He accuses Zelensky of being a dictator without elections and claims that half of the money sent to Ukraine is missing. Trump praises his own administration for successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something Biden never tried. He criticizes Europe for failing to bring peace and suggests that Zelensky wants to keep the gravy train going. Trump mentions Zelensky accusing him of living in a Russian-made disinformation space and Putin expressing a desire to meet with Trump. The Trump administration is charting a new course by reaching out to Russia and pushing for a peace deal. Talks between senior officials from both countries have taken place to improve ties and negotiate an end to the war. Back and forth between Trump and Zelensky, who have been allies in recent years under President Biden. The Trump administration's approach marks a shift from the previous administration's stance on Ukraine and Russia.